The question of why and how the United States and Israel misjudged Iran's resistance is not just about intelligence failure. It is about deeper structural, historical, and strategic misunderstandings. Many independent analysts, including military experts and geopolitical observers, had warned before the war that Iran would be an exceptionally difficult opponent, not because it could defeat the US militarily, but because it could endure, absorb, and impose costs over time. What has unfolded so far suggests that these warnings were either underestimated or overridden by political strategic assumptions. To understand this misjudgment properly, we need to examine multiple layers. Strategic assumptions, historical blind spots, technological overconfidence, and misreading of Iranian society and doctrine. The core misreading confusing military superiority with strategic control. At the heart of the US Israeli misjudgment is a classic error. And which is that? They assumed that overwhelming military superiority would translate into quick strategic success. This assumption has deep roots in recent Western military history. Iraq 2003, rapid regime collapse, Libya 2011, fast air campaign success, early Afghanistan phase, that is in 2001, quick Taliban collapse. These precedents reinforced a belief that precision strikes, air dominance, decapitation of leadership could force adversaries into collapse or negotiation. However, Iran is fundamentally different. As analysts note, the war has become a contest of endurance rather than battlefield dominance. This is where the misjudgment begins. The US planned for shock and coercion. Iran prepared for attrition and survival. Second, underestimating Iran's strategic doctrine, that is, war as resistance. Iran does not fight wars the way Western militaries expect. Its doctrine is shaped by the Iran Iraq War, 1980 to 1988, decades of sanctions and isolation, revolutionary ideology centered on sovereignty and resistance. For Iran, war is not about winning quickly, it is about not losing over time. An Iranian perspective explicitly frames the conflict as a war of survival tied to sovereignty and self determination. Why this matters? US planners often assume pain that would lead to political pressure and that would lead to policy change. But in Iran, pain leads to resistance and the resistance leads to regime consolidation. This is the difference. This inversion is critical. Instead of weakening Iran internally, external attacks often strengthen national unity, legitimize the regime, marginalize dissent. This dynamic was widely predicted but insufficiently weighted in decision making. Geography, the most ignored variable. Independent analysts consistently emphasized that Iran's geography alone makes it uniquely resilient. Yet this factor appears to have been undervalued. Key geographic realities: vast size, far larger than Iraq or Syria, mountainous terrain, ranges like Zagros, Alborz, dispersed, hardened infrastructure, long coastline along the Persian Gulf. As one expert analysis notes, geography routinely times over hard power. The misjudgment. US and Israeli planners assumed air power could neutralize key targets. Infrastructure destruction would cripple Iran, but in reality, targets are distributed, mobile, and underground. Destruction is partial and reversible. Military capability is redundant by design. Even after heavy strikes, Iran continues operations, highlighting that destruction doesn't mean defeat. Fourth point is overconfidence in technology versus underestimation of asymmetry. One of the clearest misjudgments lies in the technological mindset of Western militaries. The US and Israeli militaries rely on advanced missile defense, that is, Patriot, THAAD, precision guided munitions, air superiority, whereas Iran relies on cheap drones, ballistic missiles, naval mines, swarm tactics. The asymmetry gap. Recent battlefield reports show cheap Iranian drones are overwhelming expansive Western defenses. US systems are economically unsustainable at scale. This creates a structural imbalance. Iran spends thousands, whereas US spends millions. Iran can scale attacks, US cannot scale defense cheaply. The misjudgment. US Israel assumed superior technology ensures dominance. But modern warfare has shifted toward cost efficiency, mass deployment, attrition economics. Iran understood this shift earlier. Next point is misreading Iran's military resilience. Early US Israeli strikes caused significant damage. Missile sites destroyed, infrastructure hit, yet Iran continues launching attacks. Its systems remain operational. As reported, Iran's missile program remains operational, highlighting the resilience of its decentralized and mobile systems. The misjudgment here is planners assumed destroying infrastructure is equal to eliminating capability. But Iran's system is decentralized. Second, it is redundant. Third, designed to survive strikes. This is not accidental. It is the result of decades of preparation. Next point is ignoring the state of Hormuz reality. Perhaps the most consequential miscalculation was underestimating Iran's leverage over the Strait of Hormuz. Experts had long warned Iran cannot defeat the US directly, but it can disrupt global energy flows, and that is exactly what happened. Oil markets destabilized, shipping disrupted, global economic shock triggered. The strategic oversight. The US treated Hormuz as a manageable naval problem, but in reality, it is a global economic pressure point. Iran does not need to win battles, it only needs to make the war economically unbearable. Next dimension is underestimating regional spillover and proxy warfare. Another major miscalculation was assuming the conflict could remain contained. Instead, it has expanded. Houthis attacking shipping and Israel, Hezbollah tensions rising, Gulf states under pressure. As noted, the conflict is expanding regionally with multiple actors entering the battlefield. Here, the miscalculation US Israel assumed Iran would respond directly and proportionally. Instead, Iran activated indirect multi front pressure. This creates what? Strategic complexity, resource strain escalation, risk, political and cognitive biases is the next dimension of this war. Not all miscalculations are technical, many are psychological and political. Overconfidence bias. Success in past wars led to overestimation of capabilities, underestimation of adversaries, ideological framing. Iran is often viewed through rogue state lens. Simplified narratives, this can obscure rational strategic thinking, long-term planning. Next dimension is political incentives. Leadership may prioritize short-term demonstrations of strength, domestic political gains, even when long-term risks are high. One critique suggests the war reflects overestimation of benefits and neglect of costs. Next dimension is ignoring historical lessons. Many analysts explicitly warned against war with Iran based on history. Key lessons ignored. Vietnam, weaker power can outlast stronger one. Afghanistan, terrain plus insurgency neutralizes superiority. Iran Iraq war, Iran can endure massive losses without collapse. These parallels were well known, yet they were discounted, likely due to belief that this time is different. The fundamental strategic error, the deepest misjudgment, can be summarized as follows. The US and Israel planned for a finite, decisive conflict. Iran prepared for an open ended, exhausting struggle. This mismatch is critical. As one analysis notes, the decisive variable is not firepower, but endurance and sustainability. Now we come to why warnings were ignored. Independent analysts did warn against what? So why were they ignored? Misplaced faith in deterrence collapse. Belief that Iran would back down quickly. Underestimation of economic blowback. Oil shock and global disruption were not fully priced in. Over reliance on military metrics. Focus on targets destroyed, sorties flown, instead of political outcomes. Economic sustainability. Strategic impatience. Preference for action over containment or diplomacy. With this, I come to the conclusion. The US and Israel did not misjudge Iran because of a single error. They did so because of stack of reinforcing assumptions, overconfidence in technology, underestimation of geography, misreading of Iranian doctrine, ignoring economic warfare dynamics, discounting historical precedent. Most importantly, they misunderstood a fundamental truth. Iran's strength is not in defeating its enemies, but in refusing to be defeated. In modern warfare, that distinction is decisive. The result is a conflict where tactical victories are real, strategic success remains elusive, and where the cost of continuing may ultimately exceed the value of winning. With this, I come to the end of my this video. Thank you very much for supporting this independent source of information and analysis. Please subscribe if you have not done it before.